we feel honored to have an eminent academic personalities like you with us. Some information to share with all about Dr. Shobhan Dalai. Dr. Shobhan Dalai completed his bachelor's in electrical engineering in year 2000 from B College and did his master's in electrical engineering from Jadavpur University later in 2015. Later in 2015, he have completed his PhD from Jadavpur University. From 2004 to 2006, Dr. Dalai associated with Birbhum Institute of Engineering and Technology as assistant professor. Then in 2006, he joined Jadavpur University as assistant professor. From 2017, Dr. Dalai is continuing his work as associate professor in Jadavpur University. His field of specializations are power system and high voltage engineering. He is also the treasurer of IEEE Dielectrics and Electrical Insulation chapter and IEEE Power and Energy chapter since 2015. Dr. Shobhan Dalai have more than 50 national, international journal and conference papers and also 2 patents. He has also attached with several project works of various agencies like Rusha, DST, etc. He received POSCO Power System Award 2016 in doctoral category from Power Grid and IIT Delhi. So with this brief introduction, I am requesting respected Shobhan Dalai sir to start with his presentation. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you Arnav, thank you Amartya for inviting me to give a lecture in front of the student. Now I want to present my, okay, just 1 minute.
Okay, sir.
My slide is visible to all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes, completely visible.
Okay, and I am clearly audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you Arnav, thank you Amartya, and today we'll discuss about some basic things related to the electrical power systems. Means I want to give you an overview of electrical power system. Okay, all of you know that electrical power system is basically consists of 3 portions. They are basically called the generation, transmission and distribution. Now you see that black portion is basically that generating station, and the blue color portion that is basically represents that transmission portion, and that green portion that is basically represents the distribution portion. Okay, we can categorize these 3 different portions: generating portion, transmission portion and distribution portion according to the voltage level. Generally, in case of generating station, that voltage are basically generated by the alternator. That voltage is in the range of say 11 kV to say 25 kV. This is the approximate range depending upon the alternator, means manufacturer. There are different power stations having different generating voltage, but generally it lies within the range 11 kV to 25 kV. More than 66 kilovolt is basically the range of transmission voltage, that is more than 66 kilovolt. In India, the transmission line voltage, transmission are basically voltage is generated in the range of 765 kilovolt or more. Nowadays, people of India, they are trying for that voltage level 1200 kV, and this 1200 kV is in the commissioning stage. And distribution voltage level, these are generally the different types of consumer basically consumes the different voltage level. As a domestic consumer, we are basically consume 230 volt. The primary customer or a say industrial people, they are basically consumed that voltage level in the 11 kV, and some other consumer, they need that bulk consumer, they are basically taking that 33 kV voltage level. So these are the voltage level for the different sections. But why the generating voltage level is like this, and why the transmission voltage level is like this, there is a certain reason behind this. Generating voltage is basically limited to compared to the transmission voltage level, which is very low, because this is typically depends upon the alternator rating. If you go for higher voltage level, then the alternator overall size it increases, and it is not economical for designing an alternator above that voltage. Okay, and why the transmission voltage level high? Transmission voltage level generally very high. If we transmit the voltage level, transmit the power at high voltage, then the transmission loss is less. So that is why the transmission line voltage level generally higher than the generating voltage level, and which is more than 66 kilovolt, and it can go up to say 1000 kilovolt to 100 kilovolt. In 1000 kilovolt transmission line voltage level are there in our neighboring country China, and India now commissioning 1200 kV, but India successfully that 765 kV transmission line is running in commercially running in the inside the India. And distribution voltage level, according to the customer needs, the distribution voltage level are different. As a domestic consumer, we are basically consume the 230 volt, small 230 volt, and mind that this voltage is basically the single phase. All the voltage levels are three-phase voltage level. Only as a domestic consumer, we are basically consume 230 volt, and some of the factory, they are basically using three-phase voltage in the range of 415 volt. Or primary customer, secondary customer, they are comparatively bulk consumer compared to the domestic customer. They are basically consume the power at higher voltage level in the range of 11 kV and 33 kV. Okay. Now I want to give a brief outline how the power is generated inside the power station. Okay, and generally in India, most of the power stations are based on the conventional energy source, thermal, hydel, and nuclear. So first I will discuss about the thermal power plant. So this is basically the structure of the thermal power plant. Thermal power plant, main component of the thermal power plant is boiler, turbine, and the generator. And in case of thermal power plant, most of the cases in thermal power plant, fuel is used as a coal. So basically coal is burned to produce high temperature and high pressure steam inside the boiler. Okay, then the steam is passed through a steam turbine that produces a rotational motion, and this turbine is basically act as a prime mover of the generator. The generator is basically mechanically coupled to the turbine and thus rotate the generator, and generator is produced electricity, that is the three-phase AC electrical power. Okay, so this is the very simple flow of energy. That chemical energy of the coal is basically converted to heat energy. This is not the direct energy conversion, but you can consider that as an intermediate step. Heat energy in the steam, then it is converted to the mechanical energy in the turbine, and finally we will get that electrical energy. Means chemical energy is basically converted to the electrical energy. So this is basically the flow of different energy, how the chemical energy of the coal is converted to the electrical energy. So this is one picture of thermal power plant. This is all of you know that Kolaghat thermal power plant. This Kolaghat thermal power plant basically consists of 6 units, and each unit having capacity 210 megawatt. Okay. Now this is the requirement of thermal power plant: proximity of the generating station, should be nearer to the cold reserve and water source, but that should be economical for a power plant, but it is not always true, or we do not maintain that thermal power plant should be nearer to the say colliery or that water sources. It is not possible, but if it is possible to build a power station nearer to the cold reserve center or nearer to the water source, that will be beneficial from the cost point of view. And one of the major limitation of the thermal power plant is basically that power plant pollute the atmosphere because the burning of coals. So this is basically, you can say, this is the major limitation of the also that there is a limited source of coal, and nowadays that storage of the coal is reducing day by day. So we now that people are looking for the alternative source of energy. Okay. Now, similarly, like thermal power plant, hydel power plant, also the principle wise they are same. Means that last portion, that is the turbine and generator portion, they are same. Only that portion is different. That in case of thermal power plant, boiler is basically passing the say high temperature steam to the turbine, and that high pressure steam is responsible for the rotation of the turbine. But here the principle is slightly different. We use basically the water head for running the turbine. So what is the principle here? Water head. So this is basically the water head. Water is basically it can be natural or it can be artificial. Water head is used to drive the water turbine that is coupled to the generator. And generally, water head may be available in the hilly region, naturally in the form of water reservoir like lake at the hilltop. So in case of certain hilltop, if the natural lake is there, so that lake water can be used as the water head for running the water turbine. But most of the cases, always it is not available. So that we can build a artificial water head in a certain area. So what is the principle behind that? Potential energy of the water can be used to drive the turbo generator set installed at the base of the, so this turbine generator set, they are basically placed at the base of the hill. Means here the turbine and generator set are present. Say suppose that water head or the natural lake or the artificial water reservoir are present at the hilltop, and the turbine and generator set are placed at the bottom of the or base of the hills through the piping. That arrangement is basically called the penstock. Okay. So this water head may also be created artificially by constructing dam on a suitable river. So what is if you compare that hydroelectric power plant compared to the thermal power plant, advantage is that in case of hydro power plant are eco-friendly. Okay. There will be no such burning of the coal. So there will be no such ash is generated due to the burning of coal. So this is eco-friendly, neat and clean, as no fuel is to be burned to produce electricity. But running cost of such plants are very low. There will be no such requirement of coal like fuel. So only that water will be act as a fuel of this type of power plant. So initial, but mind that initial investment is more if there will be no such natural dam is present. So initial cost is high compared to the thermal power plant due to the massive civil construction for say for the water reservoir, etc. Also the site to be selected for such plants depends upon the natural availability of the water reservoir at hilltops or availability of the suitable rivers for constructing dam. So this is the, you can say, compared to the thermal power plant, this is the cost involvement, that is the initial cost involvement would be more compared to the thermal power plant. So here is a small video how the hydroelectric power generate. Just you saw, this is a small clip of hydroelectric power generation. So this is basically the water head. this portion is the water head. And there is a gate. If this gate is open, that head water head, is entering into that portion. So this is basically the penstock, and this is basically the rotation of the turbine due to the flow of energy. By using the potential energy of the water, we can drive the water, drive the turbine. That turbine is basically coupled to the generator, and generator is basically produce the electricity. Now, if you compare that idle power plant alternator, generally idle power plant alternator is basically running at low speed, because here the water turbine is generally operate at low RPM, so the number of poles of the alternator are very high. Generally is in the range of 20 pole. In normally in case of thermal power plant, that number of pole of the alternator is in the range of say 2 pole. Maximum you can get 4 pole, and RPM of the alternator is either 1500 RPM if you consider 4 pole alternator. If most of the cases in case of thermal power plant, these are the 2 pole alternator. So 2 pole alternator is basically running at 3000 RPM. But in case of hydel power plant, generally the alternator having higher number of pole due to the low speed of water turbine. So if the number of pole is 20, so that alternator is basically rotates at 300 RPM. Okay, so just I may want to mention in West Bengal one idle power plant is there in Purulia, that is basically called the Purulia Pump Storage Project, and here the total number of units are available 224, and each unit having capacity 225 megawatts. So total 900 megawatt capacity for the Purulia Pump Storage Project. Now we come to the other another conventional power plant, which is also some of the power plant in India also based on this principle, that is basically called the nuclear power plant. And principle wise, these two turbine generator portions, they are principle wise they are same. Only for driving the turbine, that principle is different. So what is the principle for driving the turbine? We are basically use uranium. Uranium is basically used as a fuel, and due to the bombarded by the neutron, if the neutron strikes the uranium, a lot of heat energy along with the additional neutrons are produced. That additional neutrons again strikes the uranium and produce again some energy and again some neutron. In that way, chain reaction is basically occur inside a nuclear reactor. But we have to control that reaction. Means that chain reaction should be occur, but that reaction should be a controlled manner. So for that purpose, two things are required. One is called the moderator, and another is called the other. Say you can say. Another is called the control rods. So that moderator and control rods, they are basically responsible to ensure that chain reaction should be occurred in a controlled manner. What is the function of the moderator and control rod? Moderator is basically we use that heavy water. Heavy water means deuterium. Deuterium means hydrogen isotope. That heavy water, deuterium, is basically one of the component of the water. Water is basically, all of you know, this is H2O, but here hydrogen is basically used, that isotope deuterium, and or sometimes very pure carbon 12C are also used that as a moderator. What is the function of the moderator? Function of the moderator to reduce the speed of the neutrons. Say by the nuclear reactions, say heat as well as some neutrons are produced. By using moderator, we can slow down the speed of the neutrons. And what is the function of the control rod? Control rod is basically generally it is made of cadmium or boron steel, and that is basically inside it the reactor, which basically controls the number of neutrons. In such a way, it basically absorb some neutrons. So in that way, we can slow down the speed of the neutron. Also, we can reduce the number of neutron with the help of the control rod. Okay. But that heat generated due to this chemical reaction or the nuclear reaction inside the reactor, which is basically taken out of the chamber with the help of a coolant such as liquid sodium or the some gaseous fluid. So that coolant is basically collects that heat generated inside this reactor. That coolant is basically collects the heat, and that coolant either we can use liquid sodium or some gaseous fluid. Now this collected heat basically transferred to the heat exchanger, that is basically converted to steam, and that steam is basically drives the turbo set, and the exhaust steam from the turbine is cooled and fed back to the heat exchanger with the help of water feed pump. So this is the principle. Instead of coal or instead of water heat, we can use that high pressure steam with the help of heat energy produced due to the chain nuclear reaction of the between that by bombardment of the neutron over the uranium-235. Okay, so now you see there is a small video for this nuclear reactor. These are basically the uranium rod. This is the moderator function. That moderator is basically the slow down the speed of the neutron. So this is the energy. So in that way, gradually that number of neutrons are increases. Now you see this is the deuterium water that is basically responsible for the slowdown of speed of the neutron. This is the control rod. Control rod is basically absorbs some neutron, and in that way it can control that number of neutron present inside the moderator. Okay. Just you see that some of the neutron is basically stuck to the control rod. Then otherwise that principle wise they are same, that heat is produces, that heat is basically increase the temperature of the water. Now that water is high temperature, the water is basically drives that turbine, and that turbine is basically coupled to the generator. So in that way, is basically these three conventional power plant are different from the production of the heat energy. In case of thermal power plant, it basically produces the heat from the coal. In case of hydel power plant, water heat is basically used for to drive the turbine. In case of nuclear power plant, that nuclear fuel or uranium is basically used for the production of the heat energy. So in India, there are several power plant is there based on the these principles. One of the example is Tarapur nuclear reactor in Maharashtra. That total capacity of this 1400 megawatt. There are two units having capacity 160 megawatt and two units having capacity 540 megawatt. Okay, so these are the three conventional power plant, but nowadays due to that limitations of the fossil fuel, now we are looking for the non-conventional sources of energy. Non-conventional sources of energy is basically there are several sources of energy are there: wind energy, solar energy, hydroelectricity, geothermal energy, biomass energy, and tidal energy. And among this, all this energy in if you can consider any country, say one or two energies abundantly available. So these are the nowadays people in already in some of the European countries, they are basically converted to their 50% of the power plant based on the non-conventional energy source. But in India, we are trying, we are looking for to increase that power plant based on the non-conventional sources of energy. But here that percentage of the power plant based on the non-conventional source of energy is very limited. Say you can say 5 to 10% of total power plant is basically based on this. But India government is looking for to increase that power plant based on non-conventional source of energy. In compared to the conventional method, the capacity in terms of megawatt of each non-conventional power plant is low, but most of them are. This is the advantage of the non-conventional source of energy. This is most eco-friendly and self-sustainable. There will be no such limitations of stock of or storage of this particular energy. Wind power, solar power, these are the various sources of energy. And in India, these two non-conventional source of energy are we are basically produce the power from this based on these two types of non-conventional source energy, solar and wind. Others also are available, but compared to the solar and wind, they are less. Now we will discuss about that little bit about the transmission. So transmission is basically this is the transmission line tower, and these are the major component of the transmission line. One is basically the transmission line tower, and this is basically represents that transmission line insulator like this. This is the transmission line insulator, and this portion is basically called the transmission line conductor. Okay. So there are different types of insulators are there. There are different types of conductor are used, and different types of tower. We'll discuss about that little bit about what are the different components present in the transmission line. So, but before that, already I mentioned in the first slide that transmission voltage level is generally very high. So huge amount of power generated in the power stations in the range of few hundreds megawatt is to be transported over a long distance. Long distance means the distance is in the range of hundreds of kilometers to the load center, because where are basically we are transferring that power to a particular load center. Load center means where the different types of consumers are there. So suppose in Kolaghat power is generated, and that power is transmitted to the Kolkata, and that distance between Kolaghat and say Kolkata is near about say 70 kilometer. So we are basically generated power at certain portions, and we are basically delivering that power at certain distance. Now, in order to deliver that power from generator side to the load side, if we lose the power more, so that is not be economical. So due to the increase the efficiency of the power transmission, generally that power is basically transmitted at very high voltage. So what is the advantage of transmission the power at high voltage? So suppose you want to transmit the power 100 megawatt. This is a case study just for your knowledge. Suppose you want to transmit the power 100 megawatt, and if the transmission voltage level is 10 kilovolt, so what will be the line current? All of you know that electrical power, three-phase power, is basically represents as √3 VL IL cos theta is basically equals to the power. Now, if the voltage level is 10 kV, and for simplicity you consider that power factor is 0.8. Now, if you replace that 0.8, the VL is 10 kV. Now we want to find out this IL. So for that case, if you replace that cos theta by 0.8, VL by 10 kV. So for that case, current rating for transmitting this power, that is the current in the range of 7,000 ampere. Mind that. So we have to transmit the power through a transmission line. That line conductor should capable to transmit the power in the range of 7,000 ampere if we transmit the power at 10 kilovolt. Mind that this current rating is huge. So for that case, that what is the size of the transmission line conductor? That should be huge, because all of you know, if the current level is increases, so that is basically increases the cross section of the conductor. Instead of transmitting power at low voltage 10 kV, if we transmit the power say 400 kilovolt, so this is generally the capacity of this is generally the voltage level we are using for transmitting the high power from generating station to the load center. If we transmit the power 400 kilovolt range, so for that case, for similar for similar example, if we transmit the power 100 megawatt power at 400 kilovolt, so for that case, that approximate current is 180.4 ampere. Now you see that initially, if the voltage level is 10,000 kilovolts, so for that case, current is 7,000 ampere. But if we increase the voltage level 400 kV, so for that case, current rating is say you can say almost 1/5 of this total current. Means current is basically limited to within 200 ampere. So for that case, cross section area of the conductor reduces. If the cross section area of the conductor reduces, means conductor material will be required less. So for that case, it will be economical from the cost point of view also. So this is the advantage if we transmit the power at high voltage. There are certain other assumptions, certain other criteria also associated with this. If the current rating is low, so all of you know, conductor means what? Conductor means is basically the combination of inductance and resistance. So the conductor is basically the what? Conductor is basically the combination of resistance and inductance. If certain current is flowing through the conductor, so what will happen? There is a certain voltage drop, R plus JXL. So if that cross section area is reduces, so for that case, resistance is total voltage drop in the transmission line also reduces. So this is one of the advantage of this. Use of higher voltage reduces the voltage drop in the line resistance and reactance. So this is the advantage of transmitting the power at very high voltage. So there are several other reasons also behind this, but for this overview class, overview lecture, I will limit it to up to this. But generally, when you will study that what are the component present in transmission line, how the power, why the power is transmitted for high voltage. So in that portions that your teacher will be discuss what are the other things also behind this scene. Generally, the transmission voltage level is in the range of 132 kilovolt to 220 kilovolt, and these are the normal range in India: 132 to 220, 400, and 760 kilovolt. Now, just I want to show certain transmission line capacity. Say transmission line, and that transmission line are basically we are transmitting the voltage at AC. means we are transmitting the voltage for high voltage AC or high voltage DC also. High voltage AC having some advantage, high voltage DC also having some advantage, and both the cases there is some limitations also. But one of the things is correct. One of the assumption is correct. If we transmit the power at high voltage, that will be economical. So generally, either it can be transmit the power AC or DC, but always you have to maintain that voltage level at very high. So this is basically the 500 kV DC line, and this is basically the 800 kV AC line. So this is basically, you see, 800 kV AC line, that power transmitting capacity is 200 megawatt, and for 500 kV DC line, power transmitting capacity is 3000 megawatt. And next portion, that this is basically the called the right of way. What does it mean, right of way? Right of way means when a transmission line is passing through a certain area, so we have to maintain certain distance surrounding this transmission line. That length is basically called the transmission right of way. Okay, why we maintain this length or this distance? Because surrounding this transmission line tower, there will be no such tree, no such building, no such things is present within this area. Because there is due to storm, there is a movement of the transmission line conductor. So we have to require certain free space adjacent to the transmission line. Also, due to the certain weight, and here you see one thing, you see that bottom of some of the portion, say suppose here is one tower and here is another tower, in between there is no tower. So if you connect a conductor or if you connect a rope between the 2 points, some portion will be look like this. This is basically called the transmission lines set. So we have to maintain certain gap distance from the say earth to the bottom portion of this conductor. So means when you are designing a transmission line, we have to consider that transmission line sag. So due to that sag, that transmission line should not be touches the ground. So these are the limitations, or due to that movement of the conductor, we have to consider a certain right of way. And already in this in this portion, it is showing that this is around 75 meter is basically the right. This length is you have to keep free. There will be no such big tree, no such big building is present inside this transmission right of way. Okay. Now we come to the transmission line conductor. Transmission, there are two types of conductor as generally used. One is called basically the stranded conductor. Stranded conductor is what? Stranded conductor is basically a solid conductor where instead of single conductor, it is basically consist of number of strands. Why we use instead of solid conductor? Why we use that number of subconductor inside this solid conductor? Because if we use more strands, so for reliability point of view, it will be better. Also, it provides much more mechanical strength compared to the single solid conductor. And here, this is the example of certain transmission line conductor, and this conductor is basically called the stranded conductor. Stranded conductor means which is equivalent to solid conductor, but it is replaced by a number of subconductor. Okay. And according to that number of number of subconductor present inside the solid conductor, inside that conductor, so that is basically according to their number of conductor presence, that will be decided that voltage level. So here you see that number of conductor present, say 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inside this portion. This is basically is certain blacker than outer side is basically aluminium is present, and inner side is basically the steel conductor are present. Generally, this type of conductor is basically known as AC, SR conductor, aluminium conductor, steel reinforced. Aluminium conductor are basically used for the lighter weight, and steel conductor is basically used to provide the mechanical strength. According to that voltage level. So if I want to use that particular the standard conductor for 33 kV 66 kilovolt range, so generally we are consider this type of configuration. So that 6 conductor which is surrounds one single steel conductor. So total number of conductors subconductor present in the strand is 7, and generally this conductor is capable to deliver the current 300 ampere, and generally this type of conductor is named like animal, dog conductor, panther conductor, zebra, and moose conductor. So according to the voltage levels that you see, gradually the current rating capacity increases. Okay. So these are the basically called the standard conductor. So this type of conductor is generally used in case of the transmission line. But in another type of conductor also used in case of transmission line, they are basically called the bundle conductor. Bundle conductor is what? Bundle conductor, again, bundle conductor also consists of number of subconductor. See, bundle conductor is basically consists of number of subconductor, but instead of replacing that whole diameter by subconductor, say it is basically consist of say 4 conductor. Sometimes it may be consist of 5 conductors, sometimes it may be consist of 6 conductors, sometimes, but most of the portion of this conductor is basically empty or hollow. So here you see this bundle conductor is basically consist of 4 conductor, and these are the spacer in between to place that conductor at certain positions. We are using spacer. So what is the advantage of that? Advantage of that is basically it occupies the same space of the standard conductor, but number of subconductor is less. Why we use this type of conductor? We use this type of conductor because we want to increase the reliability of the power system. Also, the number of conductor is less, and this type of conductor is generally used to increase the overall diameter of the bundle conductor. We'll discuss little bit about that certain phenomena, corona, that bundle, if we use bundle conductor instead of standard conductor, so corona phenomena will be improved. So due to that reasons, we use the bundle conductor, either bundle conductor or the standard conductor in case of the transmission line conductor. And another thing here I want to mention that generally we are talking about the transmission line, overhead transmission line, but in some urban areas, basically power is transmitted through the underground cable. So what is the difference between the underground cable and overhead transmission line? Both are carrying the power, but underground cable is basically overhead line conductor is basically a conductor, bare conductor, which is basically surrounds by the air as a insulator. But in case of underground the cable, there are different types of, this is basically the actual core of the cable, or you can say this is the conductor where basically the high voltage is connected, and that outer portion that is basically called the armor, that armor is basically connected to the ground, and in between this high voltage core and the armor or the ground, there are different layer of insulator are present. So each insulator layer having different function. Some of the insulator provide only insulation, some of the insulator semiconducting. Here you see some of the insulating layer are basically present at semiconducting. XLP is basically stand for cross-linked polyethylene. So different types of layer of insulation is there. So that layer of insulation basically primarily, what is the function of the insulator? Insulator is basically provides that insulation between the two current carrying conductor path. So this is the basic function of the insulator, and according to the design difference, the overhead transmission line is basically surrounded by the air as a insulator, and you can say this is practically a bare conductor, but underground cable is basically means underground conductor is basically wrapped by the several layer of the insulator. So performance wise, underground cable performance is a little bit you can say inferior compared to the overhead transmission line, basically in the presence of different types of insulating layer. So capacitance is more in case of underground cable, so it basically draw larger amount of say charging current for charging the capacitor. So this is the one of the limitations of the underground cable. So underground cable also designed for say a few 100 kilovolt, 132 kilovolt, 66 kilovolt in that range. But one of the advantages is that where the in urban areas it is not possible to transmit the power by overhead transmission line. So underground cable is one of the options for transmitting the power inside the underground portion. So now we want to discuss about that insulation, transmission line insulation, but here I want to mention that types of insulation. The type of insulation, according to the definitions, there are two types of insulator is there. One is self-restoring insulation, another is for non-self-restoring insulation. Self-restoring insulator is what? After disruptive discharge, it regains its property, just like a gaseous or liquid insulations. If you withdraw a certain voltage for which it is breakdowns, if you remove that voltage, so again it will be formed, means again it will becomes into its original or initial positions, and again it will be act as a insulation. That is basically called the self-restoring insulation. And in case of non-self-restoring insulation, if it is damaged, so it can't regain its insulating properties. Most of the solid insulation are in that nature. So as a transmission line insulator, already I mentioned that surrounding the conductor air is act as an insulator, but to isolate the conductor from the transmission line tower, we use the different types of insulator. That is basically the solid insulator. Either it will be made of porcelain or it will be made of glass. So these are the basically called the disc insulator. Disc insulator is generally made of porcelain or glass, and nowadays it is basically made of, say, different types of other insulating material also, silicon rubber insulator and composite insulator. So this is basically the structure of the disc insulator that is specified by the axial height and the maximum diameter. So suppose a particular disc insulator is designed for 11 kV. Sorry, so suppose a particular insulator is designed for 11 kV. Now, if I want to say insulate a particular line for 132 kilovolt, so instead of single unit, you have to require 132 by 11. That is, at least you have to require 12 such insulator for providing the insulator. And due to that reasons, here we want to show how this insulator is connected one by one. So this bottom portion of the insulator will be connected in this side of the another insulator. In that way, according to the voltage level, you can gradually increase the number of discs in a particular string. When you connected that more than one disc in that formation, so that is basically called the string of insulator. And in case of two things here are marking, one is called the creepage distance and another is called the protected creepage. Protected creepage distance is basically responsible for the leakage path, which is basically prominent in case of say when during that wet condition. Wet condition means during rainy seasons. Most of the portions rainwater will be falling on the surface of the portion, and the portion which comes under the shadow, that portion is basically withstand the high voltage. And in any other conditions, there will be no such raining in outside environment. So for that case, this total portion is basically holds that system voltage level. Okay. And here you see this is basically the number of disc insulator connected in a string, and this is basically and there are two types of orientation. One is called horizontal orientation, another is called vertical orientations. So again, if you connect the insulator in that fashion, so with the with that there is a tower. With the tower, some capacitance is basically distributed capacitance formed with this insulator, with this disc of the insulator. That insulator is basically called the earth insulator. So due to the formation of the earth insulator, that is basically it basically distribute the voltage level between the different discs will be different. So the disc which is nearest to the light conductor, that is basically subjected to the highest voltage, and if you gradually proceed towards the earth, that voltage level is gradually reduces. And this is basically the one of the impressions that impressions of the leakage current, which is basically when say suppose this is a combination of disc insulator, where this is basically the overhead line, high voltage line, and this portion is basically connected to ground. So if we connect a oscilloscope with oscilloscope probe here in between this, and we can record the current waveform, some leakage current is basically flowing over the surface of the insulator. That current is basically recorded here. So generally in normal conditions, some leakage current is flowing over the surface of the insulator, but you have to monitor that leakage current should be in a value that should not be responsible for the flashover of the insulator. There are two types of breakdown is related with that insulator. One is called flashover, another is called puncture. Flashover is basically the breakdown of the breakdown of the surrounding air. That is basically called the flashover. Okay. Flashover is basically the breakdown of the surrounding air over the surface of the insulator, and puncture, this is basically the puncture basically occur through the insulator, and this is basically the permanent damage of the insulator. So that is why people are basically interested to monitor the leakage current over the surface of the insulator. And this is just I want to show this is a picture of the disc insulator, but that disc insulator is basically made of polymer. Now another type of insulator is basically used called pin insulator. In case of pin insulator, that is basically mounted over a pin, the pin, and in this portion that conductor is running over this portion, and this portion is basically connected to ground. So it is also made of porcelain, it is also made of glass, and it is also made of different composite insulator. Composite insulator means this portion is made of different material. This shadow portion, this portion is basically made of different material. So that is why this insulator is basically called the composite insulator. And this is basically the pictorial view how the pin insulator mounted, and this is basically show that. Any question?
Sir, hello. Sir.
Hello.
Sir, actually your presentation is not visible now. Just this moment it is switched off, your presentation. Your voice is audible, but presentation is not visible. Please, sir, present.
Okay. Okay. Just again.
Okay, sir.
Just a minute.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Now it is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes. Now it is visible.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now you see, we are talking about that pin insulator. In pin insulator, generally that overhead line insulator means overhead line is basically mounted over the top portion of the insulator, and bottom portion that this pin is basically connected to ground. Okay. Now this is the position of the pin insulator on the tower. So this is basically generally that pin type of insulator that voltage level is restricted to up to 11 kV to 33 the kilovolt. So this is basically the range of use of in insulator, and that is basically most of the cases pin insulator is basically used in distribution system. And you see, this is one of the applications of the strain insulator, and strain insulator is basically you see that is horizontally mounted. When this set of insulator is vertically mounted, they are called the suspension insulator. Why this? And when this insulator is horizontally mounted, this type of insulator is basically called the strain insulator. And strain insulator is basically used in case of whether the line is changing its angle and where the line is terminated. In these two cases, generally we are using strain type of insulator. Strain type of insulator is nothing but a combination of insulator they are horizontally mounted. Where the change of angle is occur means where the line is changing its directions and where the line is terminating. So in that cases, in these two cases, generally we are using strain insulator. Now we come to the transmission line tower. So generally there are two types of tower are basically used. One is called lattice type of structure. So just you see this is the formation of the lattice structure, and this is the tubular structure. See, some tube form, tubular or the cylindrical form of tower is basically used. And most of the cases now in India, most of the tower are lattice type of structure. Sometimes you will see the tubular structure, but most of the cases high voltage tower are basically consist of lattice structure. Lattice structure is basically provides much more mechanical strength compared to the tubular structure. Now we want to show some different parts of the lattice type of transmission line tower. So this is basically the transmission line tower. This portion is basically called the peak of the transmission line tower. What is the peak portion? That this portion is basically called the transmission line tower cross arm. These are basically cross arm. Above the cross arm, some portion is there that basically called the peak, and peak portion is basically holds the what? Peak portion is basically holds the ground wire. Ground wire is basically to protect the transmission line conductor from the lightning strokes. Will be come to the later on. Now this portion that above the tower body, this is basically called the tower body. Above the tower body and between the peak, this portion is basically called the cage of the insulator. And where the insulator is basically holds by the cross arm, so that cross arm is basically holds the insulator. So these three are basically for the three-phase transmission line, and the bottom portion is basically called the tower body. So these are the major portion of a lattice type of structure, and height of the transmission line, they are defined as that basically consist of four different sections: H1, H2, H3, and H4. What is H1? H1 is the minimum possible. This portion is basically called the minimum possible ground clearance. If this conductor here, the bottom portion conductor is sagged, it does not touches the ground. So there is a distinct clearance between the ground and that bottom portion of the conductor. H2 is basically the maximum sag. So this portion is basically called the, if the conductor is present, connect here, and that conductor is maximum comes to in this position, so that basically called that maximum sag of the overhead conductor. H3 portion, that is basically the vertical spacing between the, here this is the top conductor and this is basically the bottom conductor. In between that distance is basically called the H3. And what is H4? H4 is basically the vertical clearance between the ground wire, where the ground wire is basically connected, and between the top conductor. This is the place between the top conductor and the ground wire. So these are the four distinct sections of a tower, and generally depending upon that voltage level, that tower height generally that is varies from 70 foot to 300 foot, in that range, depending upon the voltage level. Okay. Now, now I mentioned that ground wire. Ground wire is basically connected at the peak portion of the tower. So this is basically the connection of the ground wire. What is the function of this ground wire? Now you see when the lightning strikes, it first strikes instead of this phase conductor, it first strikes the ground wire. So if it strikes the ground wire, so through the transmission line tower, that lightning strikes is passes to the ground without affecting that transmission line phase conductor. So this is basically the applications of the ground wire, why we connect the ground wire above the peak of the tower. So this is basically the advantage. When the lightning strikes, it first strikes that ground wire. In order to protect the phase conductor from the lightning strokes, we are basically connect the ground wire at the peak portion of the tower. Generally, this is the shielding angle. This angle is basically called the shielding angle. Generally for 30 degree, this is the shielding angle for 132 kV to 220 kV line, and generally this volt 400 kV line, so this is 20 degree for 400 kV line. Okay, So if you place the groundwater, means if you consider that angle of protection.
Sir, again the PPT is not visible. Maybe.
From this slide or previous slide?
Sir, from this slide, sir.
Okay, okay, just a minute.
Okay. Yes, sir. Okay.
Now it is visible.
Okay, okay, sir.
Okay, so this is the shielding angle you have to provide for if you want to protect your phase conductor from the lightning strokes. This is the thumb rule we are generally used. This is 30 degree for 132 kV and 220 kV line, and generally 20 degree for 400 kV and above that voltage level. Okay. Now we want to little bit discuss about that corona. You are seeing this picture. This is looks like beautiful, but from the power utility point of view, this is basically providing the power loss. So we want to limit that there will be no such phenomena occur. What is the phenomena? If you are seeing that there is certain portion, some violet glow light is coming, the different portion of this insulator as well as some from this metal structure. So this violet glow is basically what? Basically that surrounding air ionizes, and that if the ionization is more, it produces that visible light. So that that is basically the called the corona, and corona is basically does not require that two conductor. Means this is not a breakdown between the two conductor. If a particular conductor, when we are supplying the power through a conductor, if its voltage level, say generally we are transmitting the power at very high voltage in the range of 132 to 20 kV, but this phenomena is basically governed not only by the voltage level, but this phenomena is governed by the electric field intensity. Generally, in case of normal temperature pressure, if the electric field intensity exceeds in certain portion 30 kV peak per centimeter or 3 kV peak per millimeter, then this phenomena is started. Gradually, that surrounding, say suppose if you consider a conductor, surrounding air is present. So if electric field intensity in certain portion it exceeds 30 kV peak per centimeter or 3 kV peak per millimeter, surrounding air molecule, that say air molecule ionizes, and air molecule ionizes, it produces electron and say positive ion. Then again this electron strikes another neutral molecule of air, and again it produces another electron. In that way, when the electron is means air is ionizes, is sufficient ionization is occur surrounding the air, then this phenomena is related with a sound called the hissing sound. In daytime it is not visible, but you will be get that sound. But in during night time, if it means surrounding ionization is more, so during that time you'll be see that sort of violet glow surrounding the conductor. What does it affect? It affects it basically huge amount of power loss is involved due to that effect. So you have to avoid that corona. So for that case, by avoiding that corona, you have to maintain that electric field intensity over the surface of the conductor or any portion of the conductor or the tower portion that should not be exceed 30 kV per peak centimeter. But at this voltage level, it's certain temperature and pressure. That temperature pressure may vary depending upon the weather condition. Now you see, this is basically we want to this is a simplified view. So suppose a high voltage conductor, that flux line is this is the flux line, electrical flux line. All of you know electric field intensity is basically proportional to flux density. And in that portion, in the portion 1, that number of flux line passing through the portion 1 will be more compared to the number of flux line passing through the portion 2. Again, this cross section area are same, but presence of this area 1 is very nearer to the high voltage conductor, area 2 is away from the high voltage conductor, so we can say that number of flux line is more, means electric field intensity is more. So area 1 electric field intensity is more compared to the area 2. So we can represent that electric field intensity in terms of dV by dr. So this is the representations in portion at the surface of the conductor, that electric field 66 kV, and gradually if you travel far away from this, so gradually this voltage level is reduces. And when the breakdown occur, when the dV by dr greater than 3 kV per millimeter, so during that time corona starts. So corona is a form of partial discharge that occurs in gaseous medium around the conductor. So there are two types of corona. Corona basically occur corresponding to certain two voltage. In your detailed study, you will be studying what is disruptive critical voltage, what is visual critical voltage. In case of disruptive critical voltage, corona starts but cannot be seen. But in case of visual critical voltage, corona is visible. So again, there is a two picture. Obviously, this is a picture, not actually for the transmission line. This is an animated picture. This is the transmission line. If the corona is occur, so this will be look like this, and this is another picture of the corona where the high voltage equipment is subjected to or supplying very high voltage for some specific purpose. So in order to avoid that corona, generally we are use that bundle conductor for improve the corona of the transmission line. Now we come to the portions that called the substations. What is substation? What is the function of substations? Now we are generating power with the help of the alternator or turbine and combination of this, and that generating power transmitting the load center through the transmission line. Now you have to require a substation. That substation is basically you can say this is the nervous systems of the electrical utility. So what is the function of the substations? To supply the various consumer at load center at different voltage level. So that substation is basically responsible for to step down the transmission voltage level to the voltage level which is required by the different consumer. So for that case, for substations, so by which instrument we can step down the voltage level? Obviously you have to require a transformer. That transformer is basically responsible for step up or step down the voltage. So here that substations, that is basically called the distributed substation. That distributed substation is basically responsible for step down the voltage, and that voltage level is compatible to the voltage level of the different consumers. Okay. So substations are the places where the level of voltage undergoes change with the help of transformer. So this is basically the schematic you can say schematic setup from the generator and to the domestic consumer end. Here you see generator voltage level. One of the example of the generator voltage level specified as 10 kilovolt, and that goes to the power station step up transformer. That 10 kV is step up to the 400 kV. Again here major instrument is the transformer, and that 400 kV first step down to the step down transformer to 400 kV to 33 kV. Some of the big industries require that voltage level, and again that 33 kV is basically step down by using another transformer, and that is basically called the step down substations, say sub transmission voltage level, step down transmission for distribution voltage level in that way. And ultimately as a domestic consumer we are getting the power at the voltage level is around 230 volt. So these are the steps for transmitting the generating power to the domestic consumers. Now I want to show you the picture. Now already all of you are familiar with this sort of picture, that a larger area is surrounding by a fencing, and inside this fencing different types of electrical equipment are there. If already you studied this electrical component, so that major component present inside this fencing is basically the transformer. To protect the transformer, so different types of, or to measuring as a measuring instrument, different types of instrument are there. Current transformer transformer, potential transformer. For protection purpose isolator circuit breaker is there. This is one of the example of air insulated substations where the insulation is basically provided by the air. And nowadays, due to the shortage of space, we are going for the gas insulated substations where a particular substations, if you require say 200 meter by 200 meter place for air insulated substations. Here, in case of gas insulated substations, only that one big room is sufficient to hold that similar voltage level. Say, if it is that previous substation is for 132 kV substation, this substation is also for the same voltage rating, but maybe one 20 meter by 20 meter house is sufficient to hold this substation, because all the instrument means including transformer, current transformer, potential transformer, circuit breaker, isolator, whatever the component which is basically present inside the substation, they are all present inside this closed chamber, where is basically instead of air, some gas is act as an insulator, and most of the cases this gas is basically SF6 gas, sulfur hexafluoride gas is used as an insulator. So this is one of the advantage where the space is limited, where the space is not available for the air insulated substation. So nowadays people are going for the gas insulated substation. Now CSC also having some gas insulated substations in Kolkata also. So these are the different components present in, these are the line diagram of different component. One of the major component is transformer, either it may be step up or step down depending upon the voltage level. So this is the picture where the generating voltage level is step up to 132 kV. So this is basically the step up substation, but if it is a distributed substation, so for that case, that's instead of step up transformer, this should be a step down transformer where the voltage level is generally converted to 132 kV by 11 kV. But otherwise, they are consisting of similar component. Isolator is basically required, circuit breaker is required, and in here the two things are not visible. One is called the current transformer, which is basically required to measure the current, and another is called the potential transformer, which is basically required for the measurement of the voltage. Okay. And this is basically connected to the consumer. So these are the component which is basically present inside a particular substations. Major component is obviously transformer. Like major component, other component are isolator, circuit breaker, current transformer, and potential transformer. So here is just a small video. Just you see, this is the substations. These are the different components. This is 33 kV incoming substation. These are the isolator, the lightning arrestor. This is the major component. And these are, you see, PT, vacuum circuit breaker for protection purpose. This is current transformer for current measuring. And finally, lightning arrestor is provided to arrest the lightning surge. And this is basically the main component, transformer. So these are the different component present inside the substations. Okay, so this is the representation of the different component of substation. Now we come to the portion, that is the green portion, that is basically called the distribution network. So what does it network do? That network is responsible to transmit the power from substation to the consumer premises, is known as the distribution network. And this is the typical representation of the distribution network. Say suppose this distribution network transformer is there 33 kV by 6 kV, and that will be fed to the 6 kV feeder. Feeder is basically connected to that bulk consumer. And now here you see some of, instead of transmission line, that power flow is that power is flowing through the underground cable in Kolkata and surrounding say urban areas, that power is transmitted through the underground cable, and that is basically sent to the distribution transformer. And distribution transformer is basically input is 6 kV, output is 400 volt, and that 400 volt means in your area, some of the transformer are basically situated in particular positions in the local road. That transformer is basically in the range of 415 volt by let's say 230 volt. 415 means 400 volt is basically the output, and mind that this 400 not in West Bengal, the distribution voltage level 415 volt. So you better remember as 415 volt, and that 415 volt, if you measure the voltage level between the line, so that voltage level is basically the 415 volt. But as a domestic consumer, we are basically feeding the power. Say suppose this is, if this is RYB and neutral is there, generally as a domestic consumer we are feeding the power from one of the phase to, it will be connected to the neutral. So means we are feeding that power from a single phase source, and that voltage level is generally 230 volt. Approximately that voltage level is 415 by root 3, that is 239 volt. So this is basically the distribution work, distribution network do. So from transmission voltage level to the voltage level which is compatible to the different consumers. Now we come to the end of this presentation. So what are the key points you have to remember from these power systems? First one is generation, transmission and distribution of electrical power in our country. That is basically the three-phase system, that is in 50 Hertz. And these are the representation of the three-phase, red, yellow, blue. They are displaced and they are balanced one. They are displaced by each other 120 degree. Okay. Next one is three most important conventional methods. Already we discussed about that: thermal, hydel, and nuclear. These are the most conventional way of power plant generation in India. And now you see these are the voltage level. Load center are in generally situated far away from the generating station. So to transmit the large amount of power efficiently and economically over long distance, these things you have to remember. Why we require that high transmission voltage level to transmit the power economically from generating station to the load center. And this is the picture of a particular transmission line, Rechur Solapur, that is in Maharashtra, 765 kilovolt transmission line of power grid. In India, transmission line, that network is basically controlled by a national company that is called the Power Grid. And already I discussed that material used for transmission line is a bare copper conductor or ACSR conductor. Nowadays, most of the cases ACSR conductor are used because copper conductor are costlier compared to the ACSR conductor. And already I mentioned during the presentations also sometimes to increase that corona performance, also the power transmission capability, we use the bundle conductor also. And as an insulator, most of the cases in India you will be found that porcelain as an insulator, but if you will go for Maharashtra, Pune, in that side you will be find that glass also used as a insulator also. Nowadays this porcelain glass insulator is nowadays it will be replaced by a composite insulator, and most of the cases we will instead of this insulator we will use that porcelain that polymer, that is silicon rubber as a insulating material. So level of current, already I decides that level of current decides that section of the line conductor. If the current rating increases, it gradually increases the cross section of the conductor. So conductor cross section is basically depends on the current, but voltage level is basically depends on the insulation level. Gradually, here you see gradually from this side to this side that voltage level increases, so that gradually increase that tower height, because that AR column is basically act as an insulator. If you consider that 735 kilovolt compared to 220 kilovolt 230 kilovolt light, so for that case higher AR column will be required, because that height is basically the deciding, AR column height is basically the deciding factor of the AR insulator. Okay, thank you. very much for your presence. If you have any questions, you can ask me.
Thank you, sir. A very good presentation, an informative one, and that is obviously very much helpful for our students, and obviously that is helpful for us, because a great presentation that is indeed. So I am requesting the students, actually one or two students have put some questions. So I am requesting Aritro Banerjee and Gamail Nasser, please put your questions to sir one by one. Please, Aritro Banerjee, put your question to sir. You can speak in Bengali also, no problem. Aritro, are you there? Hello. Aritro Banerjee, are you present?
Okay, from chat box, Aritro
So,
questions
yes.
is there. Aritro
Yes,
is
sir.
basically asking one question. Sometimes spark can be seen on the overhead wire while contact with moving pantograph. That also corona effect? No, this is definitely not a corona effect. Sometimes when the pantograph touches overhead line, so that time due to the movement of the say EMU, that is the coach, there may be a you can say that pantograph is firmly not touches that overhead wire. So there is a gap between that pantograph and the overhead line, and if there is a make break occur, so there is a chance of flashover, because we are basically breaking the current. So that is not, definitely it is not a corona. This is due to that arcing due to the making and breaking of particular pantograph with the overhead line.
Exactly, sir. And there is another question from Gamail Nasser. So, why the arcing of the transmission line is less than the cross section of the wire compared to another phase wire?
Why the arcing of the transmission line is less than the cross section of the wire compared to another phase wire? Obviously, this is a very good question. If you consider that R, generally, if there is any unbalance occur, then there is a chance of current flowing through the arcing wire. Generally, if we consider that as a balance system, so in case of balance system, some current flowing through the neutral or arcing wire, that is the summation of all these three current. If their balance is balanced, so that net summation of the resultant current is 0. But if there is any mismatch, so some current is flowing through the earth wire or the neutral wire, obviously this current is compared to the phase wire, it is very less. So that is why that cross section area of the neutral or phase arcing wire will be less compared to the phase wire. Generally, people are generally 3.5 core. That half is basically that half the cross section of the phase wire.
Obviously, sir. If any questions for anyone, you can ask the question. You can say the questions here to sir. Okay,
Hello,
I
sir.
think there.
Hello, sir.
Yes, hello. Yes.
স্যার একটা কোশ্চেন আমার ছিল, আরেকটা কোশ্চেন, মানে ওটা তো ভালো লাগলো যেটা
বলো।
স্যার বলছিলাম, যখন ওই যে ট্রান্সমিশন লাইনে যখন আমরা ক্রস করি, মানে ওর নিচ দিয়ে যখন যায়, তখন একটা আওয়াজ শুনতে পাই। ওটা আওয়াজটা কেন হয় মানে জানি না, ওটা কেন হয় আর কি। মানে অ্যাকচুয়ালি যখন ট্রান্সমিশন লাইনের গ্রাউন্ড মানে নিচ দিয়ে যখন রাস্তা হয়, যখন আমরা যাই একটা আওয়াজ শুনতে পাই।
এটা যেটা আমি বললাম, যেটা ঠিকই তুমি সাউন্ডটা নোটিস করেছো, দ্যাট ইজ বেসিক্যালি ডিউ টু দ্য এফেক্ট অফ দ্য করোনা, or that transmission line is basically transmitting the power at very high voltage, so surrounding air will be ionized. That sound is basically we are getting when we are traveling below this transmission line. That corona is basically occur that in a limited manner, but that hissing sound is related with this corona.
Okay,
so this is the reason.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anyone have any questions more? So I think there is no more question, and so again my thanks to sir. এত সুন্দরভাবে স্যার আপনি বললেন আমাদের এটা সমস্ত স্টুডেন্ট।
জানি না সবার যদি সবাই বুঝতে পারে তাহলে ভালো। মোটামুটি একটা ওভারভিউ দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করলাম সবাইকে। আর আমি
অবশ্যই
স্লাইডটা
স্যার।
শেয়ার করে দেব, তোমরা শেয়ার করতে
Okay,
পারো
sir.
ওদের সঙ্গে আর কি।
ওকে, হ্যাঁ,
হ্যাঁ স্যার
এটাও
একটু শেয়ার করে দেন, একদম স্যার।
একটা দুজন বলছিল, আমরা বলেছি যে আপনার সঙ্গে কথা বলবো, আপনি যদি সেটা আমাদের প্রোভাইড করেন অবভিয়াসলি উই উইল শেয়ার ইট।
ঠিক, okay, 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 thank you. And if you have any questions in my slide, my mail ID is there. You can directly send me a question if you have any query. Okay,
ওকে স্যার, ওকে,
ওকে স্যার।
okay, thank you.
থ্যাংক
তাই
ইউ
তো
স্যার,
অর্ণব,
থ্যাংক ইউ।
তাহলে লিভ করি।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে,
Okay,
ওকে, থ্যাংক ইউ।
okay.